Microsoft practice here at SourcePass. My team's called the Center of Excellence for Microsoft at SourcePass, and we're built on a belief that Microsoft shouldn't be hard. We want to solve your Microsoft problems. So today, we are going to do a deep dive, a technical deep dive on a product that's had a lot of updates in the last 6 to 12 months, and that is the Microsoft Entra Suite. Really exciting tool that combines 5 separate Microsoft products together for what Microsoft calls a complete zero trust access solution for your workforce. There's a lot of technical words in there, but we're going to jump in. We're going to talk about this product. We're going to go through the various features that make it up. And it's a very timely conversation. We've been releasing episodes recently about Microsoft's new Microsoft 365 E7 product, which is a big, exciting tool really designed around managing AI in your workplace. Includes Copilot, includes the E5 stack, it includes Agent 365 for managing all those AI agents you're writing in Copilot and Azure Foundry. And it also adds in the Entra Suite. So this is one of the key components that makes up the E7 suite. And so I'm excited to dig into it and really talk to you about the various components. So let's start with just what is the Microsoft Entra Suite? What is this product? Well, it's Microsoft's way to help you enforce zero trust access across users, devices, apps, and networks without having to pull together multiple tools. And I think it really, one high level way to look at it is it kind of allows you to do a lot of things you might do with third-party tools, such as a SASE solution, maybe an identity provider like an Okta, that sort of thing. Lots of different tools people bolt together to drive this. Microsoft has put it into a suite that's built into your Microsoft stack. It's a $12 a user per month product if you're buying it as a standalone product and bolting it on other licenses, or it's included in the E7 bundle when that launches on May 1st, 2026. The 5 products that it integrates are Entra ID Governance, which is a least privilege access user access lifecycle automation tool. Entra ID Protection, which adds real-time risk-based decisions and really helps with identity compromise protection. Entra Private Access, which replaces VPNs and extends MFA and conditional access to on-prem resources. So that's, a lot of people are using a SASE solution for that. It also includes Entra Internet Access, which is the other half of Microsoft Global Secure Access. And that covers a secure web gateway, protecting SaaS and AI traffic. And finally, Entra Verified ID, which is a real-time, privacy-respecting identity verification tool that really helps to stop deepfake spoofing. So you can bolt this on a number of different licenses. There is a prerequisite. It does require Entra ID P1 as a base. That covers most of the SKUs people are running. If you're running a business premium, a Microsoft 365 E3 or an E5, you've got Entra ID P1. If you're running something like a business basic or a business standard, you don't have Entra ID P1, but there's no real value in adding Entra Suite on top of one of those basic licenses because you really need to start with the basics in P1. And we're going to talk about that real quick. Actually, I'm going to do a quick screen share, and we're going to share kind of looking at the different SKUs from Microsoft and where they land here, because there's multiple SKUs in the Entra space. Let me change how I'm sharing that. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can switch my focus here. Well, my Riverside skills are failing me. So we will just jump ahead. Maybe my producer can see if they can figure out how to highlight the screen I'm sharing for me. But in the meantime, I'm going to jump in. Seeing the screen is not a big deal. But let's talk about the different Entra ID SKUs that we're talking about here. Microsoft sells 3 separate SKUs in the Entra ID space: Entra ID P1, ID P2, and Entra Suite. Entra ID P1 is bolted into a lot of our SKUs, like we talked about, E3, Business Premium, those sort of SKUs. P2 can be sold standalone, and it also can be a part of the Defender Suite. And so we can use that to add some additional security layers. And then obviously the Entra Suite is a combination of multiple SKUs on top of that. Now, This used to be a product called Azure Active Directory P1 and P2. Microsoft renamed Azure Active Directory to Entra ID a couple of years ago, which actually really cleans up some things because it's sort of not really fully Azure. It's kind of separate Azure. It's maybe even, you could say, it's above Azure because Azure is managed using Entra ID. And also Active Directory is kind of the old school on-premise product. And I think renaming it really clarified a lot of confusion from a branding perspective. So I like the new brand. P1 does things like it gives you single sign-on, conditional access. This is like the firewall rules for your identity. How do I make rules around who can get in, what sort of authentication they need to do? How do I verify that? What MFA are they using? Where can they access from? What things can they access? Adds all kinds of different layers around role-based access and multi-tenant, cross-tenant users, dynamic groups, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of really great stuff there. The P2 license adds a lot of identity protection capabilities around risk-based conditional access, authentication contexts, device and application filters, token protections, and some risk detection and risk automation. And so that's often where we find P2 has a lot of value for people, is the risk-based conditional access adds a lot of value for customers who say, when Microsoft identifies a login or a user as risky, can you block it or require them to log in again? And we'll get into some more details around that. That's a P2 functionality. Microsoft adds a number of features on this in the Entra Suite. They add some additional details around vulnerabilities and risky account detection. And of course, we add the ID governance, the verified ID, adds additional features in the Entra Suite, and the Entra Access and the Entra Private Access are tools that don't exist in the base SKUs. So on this front, then let's talk about, like I said, we've got to have Entra ID P1 as a base. And a lot of this really starts with conditional access, like I mentioned before. Conditional access is the backbone of Entra Suite. Think of it as the firewall rules of identity, and it's really the battleground for protecting identities in Microsoft 365, which is the most critical security layer there is in a modern enterprise, in my opinion. So conditional access is the real-time engine that evaluates signals before every single access request. You can choose who and what triggers a policy, groups, users, apps, conditions, access controls, whether you're going to require MFA, require a compliant device, block something, restrict access, and then it can do logic where you combine multiple of these things. There's a number of variables that can evaluate, whether that's user identity and group membership, device compliance status through Intune, IP location, named locations, sign-in risk score, application sensitivity, even platform. Are you on iOS, Android, Windows, Linux, etc.? You can also do things like block legacy authentication or require specific levels of phishing resistant MFA, such as a FIDO2 passkey. We can require compliant devices. We've talked about this in some of our previous episodes about business email compromise, that phishing resistant MFA and compliant devices adds a lot of security for the modern token stealing attacks we're seeing. And so we're able to use conditional access to enforce those filters. And then the higher licenses can do risk-based sign-in policies where you say, yeah, Nathan can sign in anytime he wants, but when he hits a risk level, we are going to change how he signs in. You can deploy these policies in a report-only mode, which can be useful when you're phasing these in to see what sort of impact these policies will have. And there's even an evolution of conditional access that's available called continuous access evaluation. So that adds a layer where instead of just evaluating the login at some time of sign-in, it can also continually reevaluate access during a session. So if a user logs in and it's not considered risky, but something happens during the session that raises the heuristics that make Microsoft think it becomes a risky score partway through the session, Microsoft can then revoke the token in real time and drive a change in login and maybe re-authenticate, require MFA, kill the token. In a world where we have business email compromised, people get their passwords or tokens stolen, this is critical. All of a sudden, Microsoft identifies that suspicious stuff is happening. The ability to lock that down is a key detail. Entra ID Protection. So this is the layer that comes in above P1 and P2 and comes with the Entra Suite layer. So this is the first product that's in that stack. This is a AI-driven risk engine that feeds signals into conditional access and operates on two levels. It pulls in user risk. Is the identity compromised? Are their credentials leaked? Is there some activity patterns that are concerning, or maybe impossible travel? Maybe a token was used in one place and immediately it's used in another place. Or sign-in risk. It's an unfamiliar location, atypical travel. There's weird things about the token, or it's a malicious IP address. ID protection integrates into conditional access because it allows you to do some things like, if it's a high user risk, it can force a password reset and MFA. If it's a high sign-in risk or it's a medium sign-in risk, it can require MFA prompt again, just to make sure that if that token got stolen, the sign-in has a token that's authenticated, but I don't trust it, we're going to require you to re-MFA authenticate. This can help prevent things like token stealing attacks, because when it's identified as risky, it re-prompts for the MFA process, which then, if it's a stolen token, that threat actor does not have access to re-authenticate MFA. And if sign-in risk is high, it blocks access entirely. You can set rules around what it does around that. The big thing that's coming with identity protection that was announced at Ignite in fall of 2025 is that Microsoft is expanding IT protection with additional AI-powered threat detections. Security Copilot integration is coming, and it brings AI-powered risk analysis, automated investigations, and guided remediation directly into the Entra admin portal. And so this is a big win for those of you in E7. When you buy E7, E5 includes Security Copilot. E7 includes the Entra Suite. So now you've got the full suite where you've got fully AI-powered user identity protection features that are driven with automation through AI. And if you are managing identity for a large organization, this is a big win. It can be a lot of work going through and reviewing all of the signals you're getting, the risky users, the risky sign-ins. It can be a bit of work to go through and kind of correlate the logs and try to understand where users were, what was happening, why did Microsoft identify it as risky. Microsoft's automating a lot of this with AI and really going to drive a lot of really great outputs there and really great security outcomes. It's also, ID protection is also one of those features that users have access to often in the E5 and E7 suite, where they haven't turned on all the features here, but maybe they're running in audit mode. But it's kind of like having a smoke detector with dead batteries. You're really not adding any value by having this tool and not using it. So if you are paying for Entra Suite, you're looking at E7. This is a big thing to not only get deployed, but to use properly. The next tool that comes with this is the first half of the global secure access bundle. Microsoft has built this layer that can allow us to drive a lot of security on the internet access layer. The first half of this tool is called Entra Private Access. It's a VPN replacement. It uses Microsoft's Zero Trust Network Access solution, which is part of the Global Secure Access Suite, and it replaces legacy VPNs and adds conditional access and MFA to a private resource, whether on-premise or in a private cloud. So a great example is, a lot of enterprises, a lot of businesses have line of business apps and legacy apps that still run on-prem servers. And the big difference is they're not accessible through a web interface that's accessible from anywhere on the internet. You've got to hit them either through a FAT client, or maybe through a file share, or through a direct network connection, or maybe they even have a web interface, but that web interface does not support something like MFA. And in a lot of our scenarios, having MFA on key tools is a compliance requirement. VPNs are common. We've been using VPNs for 20, 30 years. But there's some challenges with VPNs. Number one, they grant broad network access. You're kind of giving people access to a whole network. You have to manage it through a number of layers. They don't really add a lot of identity-based controls. So it's kind of you authenticate and you're in. They can be expensive to operate. They require hardware and licenses. And then as people move from the device to device, you've got to maintain it. You've got to maintain that access. And the third piece is that there's just a lot of security vulnerabilities in the VPN providers. The firewall providers that are bundling VPNs, there's a lot of 0 days hitting those VPNs, and they tend to be a security risk from a vulnerability and a 0-day access and hacking threat actor perspective. So there's a lot of reasons to look at getting away from a VPN. With private access, the agent gets installed on the end user's device, although it can also be used in the browser, which is kind of cool. User authenticates via Entra ID. So all your conditional access and the identity protection we just talked about previously, where it's evaluating your access, requiring a specific level of MFA is enforced. You can do it by applications. You can say, hey, I'm only allowing you access to this app, not the whole network. I'm giving you access to this specific app. And the other benefit is that it tunnels Microsoft's traffic through, tunnels your traffic through Microsoft Global Network. This can be a big deal when you're giving people access to corporate resources, and maybe they're traveling internationally and they're on a slower internet connection. There are times Microsoft's backbone is faster than the public internet backbone and can not only provide additional security, but a better performance. Key capabilities, it does per app tunneling, so it's not a full tunnel VPN. It doesn't have to be. You can do MFA and device compliance on every connection, including on very old legacy apps that would never have a prayer of enforcing that level of security. You could do some split tunneling for hybrid networks. It works for both TCP and UDP, including RDP, SSH, and legacy app connections. And no public IP is required for private resources. So that's another advantage. We're not opening up a port. So this is a really great opportunity to really kind of drive some access to legacy solutions, to on-premise solutions, and is a great value for customers. One note that that has caught me a couple times, so just want to call this out. Both of Microsoft's Global Secure Access products, if you're going to install it on the endpoint, have a dependency for that on the Windows side for that endpoint to be Entra ID joined. So it is worth reviewing your identity posture on the endpoint when you're looking at Global Secure Access. That's, of course, our preferred and default way of deploying these products is we push people to use Entra join because it adds so much value from a number of levels, whether that's Intune integration and compliant device integration and autopilot capabilities. But it's an important call out that this Global Secure Access really does require that layer. The next half of Global Secure Access that's included with the Entra Suite is the Entra Internet Access, which is an identity-centric secure web gateway. So the private access part of Global Secure Access really allows you to manage access to private resources. Entra Internet Access handles outbound internet and SaaS traffic. It replaces a traditional secure web gateway like a Zscaler or a Netscope for many workloads. So it protects you while you're browsing the internet, while you're accessing SaaS applications, including Microsoft 365, while you're running traffic to your favorite generative AI or other tool like Copilot. And maybe my favorite feature is while you're accessing the internet from the coffee shop or the hotel Wi-Fi, and you're worried about the security of your connection. So Microsoft tunnels all the traffic through there. It allows them to do a number of things. It has an AI gateway capability now, which is a new feature. It allows you to block unauthorized AI apps. So it really allows you to lock down what AI people are using. It is able to prevent data loss via AI prompts. So you can start to really filter, hey, I'll let you use ChatGPT, but I'm not letting you upload any company data to that. It can control which Gen AI tools employees can access, and it logs and audits AI interactions for compliance. So that ability to really control AI access is a huge win of the secure web gateway capability. That's on top of the capabilities it's had for a long time, which includes blocking malicious URLs and categories. You can do some filtering. You can really dial in what people are able to access. You can do filtering based on fully qualified domain names. It actually adds a lot of layers from a Microsoft perspective on token theft detection. So you can actually start to say, hey, for my really sensitive users, they're only able to get into this sort of resource if they come from and they're authenticated through Microsoft's Entra Internet Access and Global Secure Access. So it really allows you to add some additional security layers based on the network layer and the network authentication. It also routes traffic through Microsoft's network. So it can improve performance on Microsoft resources, which can be helpful for maybe low bandwidth locations, or as I said, international locations that maybe are having trouble with performance on Microsoft's resources. As I said, the new capabilities around AI prompt shielding are huge, and it really adds a lot of value on this product that we didn't have 18 months ago, 12 months ago. So it's really exciting and really worth looking at. The third tool that we have in the Entra Suite set of tools is Entra ID Governance. This may be the most underrated part of this suite. It's an enterprise-grade answer to who has access to what and should they still have that access. It's really anchored in identity lifecycle. So it allows you to really drive some things like entitlement management. You can build access packages that include apps, scripts, SharePoint sites into these packages that people can request. Maybe somebody needs to get into a project. They're going to be working on a project that has a lot of sensitivity around it. It's a lot of NDA data, that sort of thing. You can bundle access to that into a package. They can request access, and then users accessing that sensitive data can go through an approval process that's either single or multi-stage and has time-limited grants. So maybe as an IT department, you don't want to spend the time managing access to that sensitive M&A project. But there is one or two approvers in the company who aren't in the IT department but manage that project. You can set it up so that users can say, hey, I'm going to be helping with that project. Can I have access? The non-technical users who are managing that process can say yes or no. They can set time limits, and they can really manage people's access and the time frame of that access for various users on that side. Automated expiration renewal requests can be automated and managed really intuitively. You can also drive access reviews where, does this person still need access? You can make resource owners regularly review that and auto-revoke access if the reviewer doesn't respond. This can be user-centric or resource-centric on the review. And new at Ignite 2025, they announced that there's now risk-based approval. So we can drive that through. And when Entra recognizes there's new risk on the account, it can trigger a review of their access to resources. And this can be very helpful for more sensitive companies that have some sensitive data. You can build lifecycle workflows around onboarding tasks, from provisioning apps, assigning groups, sending welcome mail. You can build processes and lifecycle workflows around role changes, around users who are leaving. So leaver workflows around termination, revoke access, disable accounts, remove license, and really can automate a lot of your HR tickets around user onboarding and offboarding. And it also includes all the capabilities we know and love in Entra ID, including just-in-time elevation for admin roles. That's a great tool where maybe you have some users who once a quarter need some admin access. Well, you don't want those users living with admin access every day. There's a lot of risk there. If their account gets compromised, they have more access than they should. But when they need it, they can request that access for a certain amount of time. You can require MFA at time of that just-in-time elevation. You can have an approval process. You can expire that role after a certain amount of time. And you get an additional layer of audit trail where that user had to request that access and explain why they need it. So a lot of great value in that tool. If you're a larger organization, this Entra ID Governance, all the automation and entitlement management can really save you a lot of time, especially on the hiring and firing, users coming and going sort of automation. It's a big deal. The next piece we have in the suite is the Entra Verified ID. This is high assurance identity verification. And this goes beyond passwords and MFA. This is proving who you say you are. It's Microsoft's implementation of decentralized ID using verifiable credentials to ensure high assurance, privacy respecting identity verification. Now, this can be valuable because there are so many interesting greenfield attacks on identity. If you've read articles about AI, people pretending to be employees, like deepfake AI access, or threat actors from foreign nations that are getting jobs at American companies so they can get inside access to those businesses as part of attacking that business from a corporate perspective. So some of the use cases are face check. They use real live biometric liveness checks to tied to a verified credential to stop deepfake attacks and account takeovers for high-risk workflows. Employee verifications, you can make sure you fully verify the employee, but they don't have to share all the data with you. Some of this is managed for you. So it's a secure form of managing this workforce identification. You can verify external partner identities without requiring them to be in your directory. So if you're onboarding a partner, you can confirm that. And you can also use it for self-service account recovery. So if maybe somebody needs to reset their password or do MFA, they can go through an identity verification capability. And some of the newer features are, the features we're most excited about are the AI-driven deepfake detection through the verified ID's face check. It uses a biometric liveness challenge that can't be spoofed with a photo or a video. The AI videos, they're not changing and moving and live like a real human is on a video. So in financial services, healthcare, where you got to really make sure that people are who they say they are, Microsoft has built out the infrastructure to allow you to drive that engagement. The final interesting piece that they're adding is Microsoft's adding Microsoft Entra Agent ID. That allows us to extend the same zero trust principles to AI agents. As we deploy more and more agents in the AI world, Copilot agents, custom agents, third-party tool agents, these agents need identities, permissions, and access controls, just like users. Without governance, you have invisible AI entities running around in your infrastructure with unchecked access. This is a lot of the problem that Microsoft 365 E7 was built to solve. How do I manage all these agents that are acting like employees, that are acting like users, that are doing things, that are taking actions, that are making decisions? How do I control their access, their permissions, lifecycle management, review what they're doing? Agent ID provides that. It's a first-class identity construct for AI agents where we can register all the agents in your inventory. We can start to look at least privileged access. One of the problems with agents is somebody may just say, well, I need this to review invoices for this variable so that we can drive an internal process. So I'm going to give it full access to the accounting suite. Well, that's a little bit of overkill. Maybe you can give it limited access to just the invoices. This is one of the tools that Agent ID is going to allow us to do, is to drive least privilege access reviewing and scoping. It allows us to manage OAuth flows and token management so that we can really start to understand how the agents are authenticating and where those tokens are going. Maybe an agent gets its token stolen. Do we have controls around that? We need sign-in and audit logs for agent activity. If you've ever had to go investigate a Microsoft Enterprise app and try to understand when it was set up and what it's been doing and who gave it that access and where it's doing things, this can be hard. It can be hard to go pull that data together. Microsoft's working to solve that with Agent ID. We also can build access packages for agents. So we can bundle resource access for agents just like we do for users. And we can start to talk about inheritable permission blueprints. This is included in the E7 bundle. We'll see if it comes to this Agent ID, see how it fits into the whole Entra Suite, Agent 365. Some of that's still being ironed out, but it's a critical piece of that E7 bundle that we're very, very excited about for those who are digging deep into the agentic world. Pricing, we talked about that a little bit. Every Microsoft account has an Entra ID free license. That's basic SSO and basic MFA. Entra ID P1 adds the conditional access, dynamic groups, hybrid join, that sort of thing. That's $6 users a month, although it's included in most of the base bundles that we sell, Business Premium, E3, E5. P2 adds a lot of identity protection, PIM, and access reviews. It's $9 user a month, or generally we're going to say buy it as part of Defender Suite, which is $10 or $12 a month, depending on whether you're buying the small business or the enterprise SKU. Then we have our Entra Suite, which bundles all of the features we just talked about: private access, internet access, ID governance, ID protection, verified ID, and agent ID. And then it's also included in the E7 bundle for $99 user per month. That is the Entra Suite plus E5 plus Copilot plus Agent 365. When you look at the pricing here, there's some conversations here about, well, how do I justify going and getting Entra Suite? first of all, the individual products would cost between $17 and $23 a year, because you can take each piece of that and buy them separately. The private access and the internet access SKUs can be bought as standalone SKUs. The Entra Suite bundles them at a cheaper price. The other thing to think about is, what other tools you're paying for? What are you spending per year on your VPN solution? What are you spending per year on maybe a PEM solution and a user lifecycle solution? A lot of companies have a number of tools that this can replace and justify the cost of Entra Suite and probably save money over the course of a year. Where are we seeing a use case for these various products? Security hardening engagement. You've built out your conditional access, you've locked down your users, but now you want to kind of take it to the next level. This would be in our flow. We would start with basic Microsoft 365 tenants. We'd move on to the P2 features around risk-based user sign-in and locking that down. And then we move into this level where, hey, let's talk about that VPN replacement and those global secure access. Then let's start to build out some of those workflows around lifecycle access and really drive some of those capabilities. And then, for those really digging into the AI side, we can start to really manage that, either the agent access or on the internet access side, really being able to filter what people are doing on AI with a lot of really good data, which is a big challenge these days. So in closing, Entra Suite is not a future product. It's not something that's been announced like E7 that's coming soon. It's available today. It's competitively priced, and it solves a problem that virtually every mid-market enterprise customer is dealing with: uncontrolled VPN costs, identity-based attacks, shadow AI, overprivileged access, and manually provisioning and deprovisioning users. The 5 products: global secure access, private access, global secure access, internet access, Entra ID Governance, Entra ID Protection, and Entra Verified ID, work together as a single zero trust enforcement platform that gives us this ability to manage those user accounts from a fully thought through zero trust perspective. Adding in the AI agents is going to be something we're seeing a lot of need for in the near future. And as a Microsoft customer, I think it really drives a lot of value for people who are digging into this space. And so we're excited to see Microsoft putting so much effort and so many new features into this product. This is a product that's evolved dramatically in the last 12 months. And I expect to see continued effort being poured into it as it's part of the E7 bundle. And we'd love to give you a deeper dive, set you up a trial, help you understand how it works, maybe build a proof of concept for you. So reach out to our team at sourcepassmcoe.com if you'd like to dig deeper into Microsoft's solution for zero trust identity protection and the Entra Suite. We appreciate you joining us on this episode today. I hope it was helpful, and we look forward to talking to you on the next episode of the Demystifying Microsoft podcast. Thank you.